CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lampp.
One of the keynote speakers is standing right next to me, Mark Mortimer. He's an Australian farmer. He's also a technology and data analyst manager, Centre Plus Merino Group. Now, Mark, I caught a little bit of your chat, haven't caught all of it, but in the conference book, I was fascinated to see a title under you, and it said 3 rules that separate tools from toys. Now, I just spoke to you very briefly. I've been pitching this concept to my co-host, Sarah, that we have a segment on CountryWide Connect called Tools or Toys, where we discuss farm products, applications, and whether they're a tool or whether they're actually a toy. I'm interested to know your 3 rules that do separate tools from toys.
Yep, right. Yeah, so I guess they came from a long history of asking myself questions. It all started, was very strongly encouraged to go into electronic tags, and we've been doing that for over 20 years. And it was through one of our funding bodies that we got into it, and then they'd front me out to different days and organisations, and they'd say, Mark, you just tell them how great electronic tags are, and everyone will go home and adopt them. Well, they've been doing that for 20 years, and people haven't adopted them. So I spent a lot of time asking myself questions, have we put the information across wrong? Do people not get it? And then you've got to ask yourself the serious question, do people want this? And after, some serious reflection, just because I love the technology doesn't mean it's wide scale for everyone. So, yeah, that's where those 3 rules came up. Number 1 for me was has to make what I already do easier. So, I was a seed stock producer running individual animal management already. Electronic tags made that much easier. If you're a commercial sheep farmer running a mob-based system, it doesn't make what you already do easier. It means you have to change what you do to get the economic payoff. So, that's one of the things that I looked at. Number 2 was, for me, it had to make my data a byproduct of management. So what I mean by that is I didn't want a separate job to get the data I needed to make next year's decisions. I just wanted that to be automatic.
Yeah.
So in my cropping business, my harvest, we get lovely yield maps, and I just get that from harvesting my paddock. The dairy guys are a good example. They get all their milk data from milking their cows. That's the product they sell.
Yep.
And, lastly, the technology has to improve labour efficiencies and economics.
So interesting. You're talking about that in your business and talking about the electronic tags, but those 3 rules could actually fit to any piece of on-farm technology. That's like a standard.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I do, and that's, if you bring out a piece of technology and the first thing I notice is I've got to change my enterprise to adopt it, it's going to be a hard sell for you. So, we all know our farms well. The history, we know which paddocks, have got problems and which ones are our best paddocks. We're there every day. We know what does and doesn't work. The technology that makes that easier is a much easier sell than one that you've got to rearrange your farm to adopt.
So you're farming as well as doing this data analyst manager for the Merino Plus Group. Just talk to me a little bit about your farm and your farming operation. Whereabouts in Aussie are you?
Yeah, so we're in central New South Wales, out in a triangle from Parkes and Dubbo. So it's, I think there are a few hills, but I've had a few New Zealand mates come to visit.
Yeah, there are no hills.
They assure me there aren't any, aren't any hills. So it's pretty flat, wide open country, 500 mil rainfall, summer, winter crossover. So some years we get both. So 22 we had 1,000 mil, and in 19 we had 120 mil. So some years you get neither.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many hectares?
So in our hectares, I have to maybe about 5,000 hectares in the family partnership, and I'm probably managing 2,000 of that at home.
And you talked about cropping, you talked about, you said seed stock, which I think we would talk about a stud, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we run a merino stud, but it's actually, it's a cooperative ram breeding group.
Yeah.
So we have members, and I manage the central nucleus and sell rams to them and to outside clients.
And obviously let's just talk geopolitics a little bit. What's it like for you guys over there? We do have an Australian correspondent who comes on the show and talks to us, but pressures, obviously fuel pressures, are you struggling with that, or is it not as bad as it's been made out?
No, definitely. Told we're not accepting orders. we've got 4 million litres of orders on our books and we don't have any fuel, it would be inappropriate for us to take more orders and you to think that we can deliver.
Wow. So what's that mean for your operation then?
Well, it's not. You're not going to often hear me say this, but thankfully it hasn't rained at all, and the tractor hasn't come out of the shed. So, but it's we could go to town and buy fuel because the government had prioritised service stations in built-up areas. So there's a lot of farmers just hook up their
tanker and off
they go, and fill up and come back. But then the service station started to put limits on what you could buy.
You can't take 1,000 litres.
So it's been interesting, but the supply is not nothing, and the doubling in price has made people far more conscious of what is worth doing and what isn't.
Whether they need to turn that machine on or not. What about fertiliser then? Because we're hearing that that potentially short as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we pre-book all our fert. So we booked it all last year and we've taken delivery. Given how dry it is and the cost of fuel, I'd happily give some back, but it's a contract, so we're in.
Well, it's not going to go off though, is it?
It's not going to go off.
No.
But there is absolutely a shortage of urea.
Yeah.
So we've cancelled our canola crops and things that absolutely need urea, and we'll run with more of our feed-based type lower water use crops, barley, oats.
Yeah, that's exactly what our Aussie correspondent Libby Price was telling us. She said exactly that. That's what farmers are doing. They're switching crops to ones that don't need urea. And
but I do have neighbours at 100% crop, and we're chatting to them, and they said no, we've just booked in $1,400 a tonne urea at maintenance levels. So his fear is that it extends. If he doesn't put the nitrogen on this year, he's run himself low, and he has to double up next year, and it could be worse.
What about pricing for you guys over there when it comes to sheep prices, beef prices, particularly for your merinos? Your wool will be all right, wouldn't
it? It is in a little spike, but sadly I think it's been supply driven. So there's I haven't sold a ewe to another farmer for 2 years. So the processors have outbid the restockers. So the national herd, it's still been pretty dry on the eastern seaboard, is declining. Sheep prices are still amazingly high. Castrate ewes that are missing a few teeth are still worth $200.
Yeah, we're hearing similar stories here, and your beef prices are through the roof as well, aren't they? Like that's phenomenal.
Yeah, we did sit down and had a presentation from an analyst. That'd be nearly 2 years ago. He explained in a lot of detail why the price of cattle would start for about 5 years to do with the lowest grade quality of ground beef in America.
Yeah.
I won't try and
we've
reproduce what he said.
No, we've had the same discussion basically that they just can't get it.
Yep.
And we can just shovel it over there and they'll pay whatever it is.
And it's been a very good prediction.
Yeah, no, it is good.
His prediction with sheep would stay very good, but on a shorter timescale because we can respond quicker to demand with the shorter breeding cycle.
What's happening to the Australian sheep flock? Ours is declining.
So is ours.
Yeah, significantly still?
There's a bunch of analysts that put out a graph that's to do with kill ratios, and once you're past a certain ratio, it tells you that you're killing off the breeding herd, and we're still in that ratio. So there's good young breeders that make more money as a hogget meat product than a breeder.
And you're obviously passionate here because we talked about your seed stock, your stud stock is genetics, and I see you're part of the National Livestock Genetics Corporation. You're a big part of the industry committee, sheep genetics.
Yep.
How's that work going? I mean, obviously genetics, you want them to get better consistently. Is it all working?
To me, that's one of the real success stories of technology. The genomics has it's been around. Well, they've been working on it, I suppose, for a decade, but it's really starting to take off. The proof, people have faith in it. I don't know whether it's DNA has a good perception.
Can I ask a question here? Why, as a dairy farmer, genetics was all we cared about?
Yep.
Why is sheep farmers seem to be not quite so concerned? Is that a correct assumption on me, or what?
Yeah, and no offence to any of the sheep farmers for this next statement, but you dairy farmers know how to feed your cows. And if you're going to get maximum benefit from your genetics, you've got to feed them properly. If you're in a really large broadacre system, you're 180,000 acres running one sheep to 18 acres. Feeding isn't top of the line. It's just whether they come back alive. So yeah, different systems. I agree with you. I'm completely wrapped and convinced in genetics, and I want the best genetics I can get. But that's my take.
Yeah, it's like, and I've got some good friends who are stud sheep farmers here in New Zealand, and they sell very good rams and very expensive rams, and farmers will buy a good ram to put over their flock, but they don't seem to take a lot of notice of the genetics of the sheep, and so it's more the rams, right?
Yeah, it is. I think we're surprised. So the sheep genetics in Australia, so our organisation funded by MLA, put out a product called the flock profile test. So it's a genomic test. So you take 20 random blood samples from your young ewes, send it away, and they'll send you back the breeding value of your commercial flock. And so once you've got that, you can go, oh, right, my growth rate is +5. I'd like to add 2 kilograms to my yearlings when I sell them. It's then all of a sudden very easy. If you know you're +5, you go out and buy some rams that are +10, and the first cross will be 2.5 kilograms genetically bigger. So we now have the tools for your commercial farmer to know exactly the genetics of their flock, and that's making it a lot easier for them to make decisions. And it's been quite surprising, the uptake of that test, because we thought it'd lag like it did in the seed stock industry, but it turns out the commercial guys, once you can show them, an economic outcome, they are quite interested.
All right. Just before I let you go, and I just want to go right back to the start and the part of your talk where you talked about Australian farmers' reluctance to do EID, electronic tagging.
Yep.
Is that changing?
I don't think so. I mean, yes, it's mandatory, so a lot of people have them.
Yeah.
So now that they've been forced into it, yes, there is a few more people going.
Well, they're not starting to see the benefits by default.
No, they feel like they're being dragged kicking and screaming. But like I said, those people that were already doing individual animal management have been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
Whereas dragging the people from a mob-based enterprise to an individual animal enterprise, that's the hard transition. That's where you've got to get them to change their operation. And that's been quite difficult.
Yeah, well, that's where it comes back to fit an existing farm system.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, so that comes back to rule 2.
Yep.
All right. Mark Mortimer, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming and joining us on CountryWide Connect today. It's been great to have a yarn. Thanks for having you here.
No worries, a pleasure.
And I'm sorry I missed all the rest of your chat, but I know the people in there will have enjoyed it.
No worries. Thank you.
All right.
CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lampp.